What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next we've got the recap of session one from the big Heritage Platinum comic auction. There were almost $10 million in sales just in the comic books I'm going to talk about for this session alone. It was nuts. This was an incredible auction, crazy sales. There were some books that went for deals, lots of books that went for big numbers. Let's check these out. So before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So what I'm going to be covering here is a recap of this big Heritage Platinum auction that kicked off. So this is session one. This is when generally most of the really, really big books sell, or the exceptionally rare books. Now it always starts off with original art and then it moves into comics. And in this session, there were 24 different comics that sold. Technically, I guess it's 23 because there's one pulp as well. And just in those 24 comics, there were $9,762,600 in sales. I had estimated that these would go for $8,861,000. So performed very well, beat my estimates on average by over 10%. These were really, really strong sales. I priced out every single book that was in this first set of 24. And then I get all the results after the auction and I take a look at them. And that's what we're going to talk about here. And yeah, it was just an impressive auction. So we're going to get started with this. And this is the recap screen here. And this is after the first two sessions because they had two sessions today. They had one kind of like early afternoon, one later afternoon. You can see for the two sessions, the total is 14,133,346. This number over here on the right. That first session alone had sales of just over 11.5 million. And so that includes that original art too. So there were about 1.8 million sales in original art. And then all the comics that I'm going to talk about, 9.7 million in sales. So just some really, really cool stuff. But I'm going to go through all of them and we'll just talk about what my estimates were for them, what they actually went for, if there were new records, new highs, all that kind of stuff. So let's jump to the first one because we got 24 books to talk about. First one here, Action Comics number 252, first appearance of Supergirl. I had this one going for 45,000. The prior record was 45,410, went for 50,400. So in my video, I think I said 45,000 and I thought maybe it could get up to 50. So this one I hit right about perfect. So above my estimate, it was about 12% above my estimate. Strong sale for this book. You know, it's a 9.2, which is top of census. And so that's one of the things that this book, there are no 9.4s, no 9.6s, no 9.8s. Very difficult in this era to get these really high grade DC books. And yeah, went for a record. Not a big jump though. That $45,000 sale was a few years ago. And so this book, it hasn't moved a lot, but it did set a new record. All right, now the next one. The next one was All Star Comics number 3. This is a pretty popular issue just because you can see here, origin and first appearance of the Justice Society of America. And the right on the cover there, sitting around the table. And this one went for 24,000. This was one of the few books that went below my estimates. I had this one going for $30,000. Its prior record was 33,600. So this one went 20% below my estimate. And based on how everything else did, I feel like this was probably a good deal. You know, this is one of the early comics in the auction. Maybe it caught some people sleeping. And I think 24,000 for this book, pretty good price. So I think probably whoever picked that one up is pretty happy. But yeah, not a record for this one. This was one of the few that went below my estimates. All right, now the next book here, this is one that a lot of people were wondering about. This is All-Star Comics number 8, went for 1.5 million, 9.4, single highest graded copy of the first appearance of Wonder Woman. This is one that it went for 1.62 million about a year and a half ago. Actually, the same copy because it's single highest graded. And I didn't think it was going to hit that number. I had it going for, I believe, between 1.3 and 1.4. So I have it on my spreadsheet as 1,350,000, and it beat my estimate by 11%. This one did very well. I was not expecting it to get back up to this number, especially if you saw what this book was at before the live bidding started. This book was sitting at 540,000 before the live bidding started. So it almost tripled with that live bidding. So a lot of work definitely had to get done during the live bids to get this book up to the 1.5 million, but it did beat my estimate by 11%. And I think it was good to see, because I've been seeing a lot of the Wonder Woman books dropping, but this showed that there's definitely still strength in this book and that people are still interested in picking it up. Because one of the tricky parts of this one is you really do have the demand for it split with three books, with this one, Sensation #1, which is her first cover, and then Wonder Woman #1, which is the first self-titled. So because of that, I think it really does split where the value really is for that first Wonder Woman, but still 1.5 million. There are not a lot of books that break the 1 million mark, and this one is solidly over that number. All right, now the next one here. This is the Amazing Spider-Man #1 curator pedigree 9.8, one of two 9.8s that's out there. A 9.8 has never sold before, so there's no prior record. So this is the record. I had this one going for 1.5 million, went for 1,380,000, and yeah, it was 8% below my estimate, but it's not really a disappointing sale. For a book that has never sold before, you're trying to base it off of a 9.6 sale that happened in 2023 for around 500,000. You're making educated guesses at best. So when it's near that range, like when I had it at 1.5 million, went for 1.38, I think that's a win, especially because this is a book that was a 9.6. It was a 9.6 that got cracked out, pressed, resubmitted, and got the 9.8. I know Mickey has talked about this one some, because there's the notorious spine tick down here, and so people always wonder, like, can you get that, the 9.8 with a spine tick, which you can. It is a pretty big spine tick, but still, you can get the 9.8 with a spine tick. However, that was something that I know people were wondering, was that going to hold this book back or not? And I mean, it broke the $1 million mark, went for 1.38 million. I think this was a really strong sale, regardless of if it didn't hit my estimate. Now, the next one was actually, I thought it was strange that this followed this one in the main, like the platinum part of the auction, because there was an 8.5 that came right after it. And the interesting thing is the 8.5 in terms of color presentation is actually better. The reds are deeper. It has some chipping along the edges, and that's what really has hurt this book. But this was a pretty strong sale. I had it going for 60,000. Its prior record was 72,000. And considering a lot of the Spider-Man keys have been dropping in price since the comic boom, this held up really, really well. Beat my estimate by 10%. And yeah, not a new record, but really held up well. Now, it is a good looking 8.5, but yeah, impressive sale with this one. All right, next one here. Rare book, Amazing Spider-Man #9 in a 9.8, one of two copies that are out there. I believe they are both white page copies. So yeah, it's not like you have the Fantastic 449 where there are two 9.8s and one's an off-white to white and one's a white, so people might say that one is still better than the other. But yeah, this beat my estimate by quite a bit. It was not a record. Again, the record was 132,000, but given how the prices have dropped in a lot of other grades, I thought this one would go for 105,000, went for 126, beating my estimate by 20%. And really holding up well. I mean, it's a great looking book. Really sharp edges, great colors, everything. And yeah, very strong sale for this one. And yeah, if you're looking for that top of census, there were some, like if you're a Spider-Man collector, there were some big books that were part of this that you could have added, like that Spider-Man 1 and then the Spider-Man 9. It's one of those where you wouldn't really be surprised if it was maybe the same person that picked up both of them. All right, next. This was one of the big disappointments, in my opinion, in this first set of books. This is that Avengers #4, first Silver Age appearance of Captain America, 9.8, white pages, went for $108,000. This book just keeps dropping. It keeps selling for less and less. I've had it come up a couple times in the last few months in a 9.8. Its record was 143,400. It had a sale, I think, around like 125 or something like that a couple months ago. And then here we have a sale at 108. I thought maybe that last sale was a bit of a fluke on the low side, so I had it going for 135,000. But no, It still went even lower. 108,000, 20% below my estimate. Nobody likes Cap anymore, I guess. No, nobody wants this book. I feel like this book in a 9.8, it just feels like it's worth more than that to me. But the last few sales have proven otherwise, and it has dropped the last couple times in a row. Now it's possible this was, the fluke low sale, but we've had a couple lower ones now in a row with this book. All right. Now we're moving into some Batman. This was one of the big books as well that was part of this auction. This was a strong performer too. This is Batman #1 in a 7.0. Prior record was $660,000, so it did not hit that. But I had it going for $550,000. It beat my estimate. We've been seeing Batman #1 pop up for sale all the time. There was actually a 2.0 that sold later in this auction that went really low. Now, not a lot lower than I thought it was going to, but I think a lot of people thought it was going to do much better than it did. I think it went for like 102,000 for a 2.0, when I think a lot of people were thinking more like 150 in that range. I had it going for somewhere around 120 or somewhere in that range. But yeah, the lower grades have been coming up for sale all the time. Just it feels like everybody is trying to flip that book in a lower grade, and I think that's really hurt the value. But higher grades don't come up for sale nearly as often, and so that probably helped this one. But like I said, I had it going for 550,000, went for 630,000, beat my estimate by 15%. Strong sale, in my opinion, for this book, even though it was not a record. All right, next one here. Batman #50. We had a couple really high grade Batman books. We've got this Two-Face cover here. I believe this is single highest graded. Let's see. Oh, no, 3. So there's 3 and 9.6, none higher. This one I had going for 28,000. This was one of the other disappointing books on the list. I had it going for 28,000, went for 22,800. Prior record was 28,800. So was 19% below my estimate. It's one of those things. I don't know if maybe like the name on the cover hurt a little bit. I mean, most of the time people that are collecting Golden Age books, they don't mind the writing on the cover. It's got this little name. It looks like Jackie, I think. Yeah, Jackie on the cover there. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's something else, but it looks like Jackie to me. And maybe that hurt it some. Not sure. It's not like it's a major key or anything, but it is one of the Two-Face covers. But yeah, this one I felt went low. I had it going for 28,000, went for 22,800. Next one. This one had a strong sale, on the other hand. People love Deadshot, apparently. We're talking about going to the moon, with these books. This book went to the moon. It's on the cover. So I had this one going for 50,000, went for 56,400, beat my estimate by 13%. Was not a record. The record was 66,000, but I thought this one would drop some. That record was a little bit more during comic boom type prices. I did think it was going to come down. It came down some, but still beat my estimates. Beautiful looking copy, 9.6, white pages, and yeah, strong sale for this book. I like that sunburst type color scheme. I believe that's what it's called. And then you've got the sci-fi like bat spaceship and the moon on there and the bat signal. There's a lot that is great about this cover. Plus, it's that first appearance of Deadshot. There's a lot going for this book. Now, this one is single highest graded, 1 and 9.6, none higher. So definitely one of those things that helps this book out as well. Right. Now, this was one of the biggest surprises in this entire platinum part of the auction, this big first set of books. Brave and the Bold, #28, single highest graded, 9.6, first appearance of the Justice League. I had this going for 540,000, went for 810,000, 50% above my estimate. This was just an impressive sale. I mean, extremely impressive sale for this book. I mean, this one, it's getting up close to that $1 million mark. I hadn't even considered this one as thinking it would get up there. When I talked about this one in my prior video where I was going over these books that were coming up for sale, I was thinking, this is a book that can break that $500,000 mark, but it got even closer to $1 million than $500,000. So definitely a big sale. And it's DC, people were paying up for that Silver Age DC. This was a incredibly strong sale for this book. In a single house graded, so it's probably not coming up for sale again anytime soon. It's possible though. It does happen. Sometimes people decide they want to let books go. But yeah, this was one where people decided this was their chance to get it, and they decided to bid and go after it. All right, now This was another one that actually surprised me, tied its record. Captain America number 100 in a 9.9. I had this going for 70,000, went for 78,000. That is its prior record, so tied that record. And yeah, I don't have a lot else to say about it. There are a couple 9.9s. Let's see. Yeah, there's two 9.9s that are out there, and it held up. Unlike Avengers number 4 that just keeps dropping, apparently the 9.9, that one keeps going strong. Now, I don't know if we take a close look at it. It's one of those things. It's like, how do you judge a 9.9 in a Silver Age book? Like, I'm sure it wouldn't get a 9.9 if it was like a modern or something like that. I mean, it is a sharp looking book. This looks like it's a manufacturer thing. It doesn't look like actual damage. Like, that's to the interior pages that are sticking out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a sharp looking book. Do you think it'd get, like, would you ever risk cracking it out, sending it in again, see if it gets a 9.9 again? I probably wouldn't. But you never know. But I mean, it's one of those where you could get it recased and you get the 9.9. But man, if they institute where they have to regrade everything, there's no way anybody send it in 9.9s again. They never would. That's just too much of a gamble, because this book would drop. I think it goes down to around 10,000 or 9,000 in a 9.6, maybe even a little less than that. And so there's no way you would risk the value loss of getting this thing recased if they are actually going to, start regrading everything that gets sent back in for reslabbing. But yeah, just something to consider with that. Like, you'll never see 9.9s recased again. All right. Next one here. This was one of the ones, I think this was a great pickup. This was Crypt of Terror number 17 in a 9.8. I believe there's only 3. Yeah, only 3 in a 9.8, none higher. I had this going for 30,000, went for 26,400, 12% below my estimate. And it's not even one of the file copies. That's what's even more impressive, that this one hit the 9.8, because usually when you've got these super high grade ECs, they're almost always the Gaines file copies. And this one isn't. This is just somebody's copy that they had. And yeah, this is from that short run before it actually turns into Tales from the Crypt. These you do not see come up for sale very often, especially not in this type of grade. So like I said, I thought it was going to go for 30,000. The prior record was 8,365. I mean, it just destroyed that. There's no question this thing was going to be setting a new record. I think a 9.4 sold for like 12,000. So there's no question a new record was going to be set with this one. But yeah, such a rare book to see come up in a 9.8. I thought this was a really good pickup. I've just been seeing more and more strength out there with these super high grade ECs. People are definitely going after them. All right, now Fantastic Four number 48 in a 9.8. This one was another one of the big outperformers in my opinion. I had it going for 75,000. I've been seeing this book just keep going down and down and down. And the record was 108,000, but to hold up this well, to only go down to 96,000 is extremely impressive for this book. I mean, yeah, other grades, if you look at other grades for this book, they have continued to drop. And so this was a very, very strong sale, beat my estimate by 28%. Definitely a big sale for this one. That first appearance of Silver Surfer, first cameo of Galactus. All right, now got some MLJ here. We've got Hangman number 8. This book just killed my estimate as well. I had it going for 15,000. I think this is highest graded. Let's see here. Yep, 1 in 9.0, none higher. So it's single highest graded, which does make it difficult to estimate. It's never sold before. So this was going to be the record no matter what it went for. I thought it would go for 15,000, went for 21,600. There are definitely a group of MLJ collectors that are out there that pay big money for these books. And that was definitely true here. Beat my estimate by 44%. It is a cool cover. It's a pretty crazy character from that time frame where this guy just goes around basically hanging people. Like, he's the hero. Like, that's how he's punishing the villains. Like, he is the hero. But yeah, so we got Hangman number 8, 21,600 for a 9.0 single highest graded copy. All right, now this one disappointed a little bit to me. This is House of Secrets number 92 in a 9.8. I had this one going for 95,000. Now, the prior record was 90,000. Based on other grades and how well this book has held up compared to a lot of other books, I thought this one was actually going to set a new record and went a little below. Went for 84,000, went for 12% below my estimate, did not set a new record. So, I mean, it's hard to say. I think, to me, I think that is probably a pretty good pickup. This is an extremely tough book in grade. This is one where there's only 3 and 9/8, and that's for a Bronze Age book. And this is 1971. Usually you have quite a few more in 9/8 in this era. So it is very rare in grade. You only have 3 opportunities to get this book in a 9/8. Went for 84,000. That feels like a good buy to me, especially since, like I said, based on other grades, I thought this one was legitimately going to set a new record and it fell short of that. So I think it was a good buy, but 12% below my estimate. Now, the next one, though, this was basically the biggest shock of this entire first set of books. This is Hulk #1, 9.2, White Pages. I had this book going for 425,000, and I don't think I was alone out there. I think a lot of people had this book priced around that point. Its prior record was 375,000. $825,000, almost doubled my estimate, 94% above my estimate. And it's a really good looking book. It's got some spine ticks, it's a 9.2. It's not a 9.8. It does have a few spine ticks, a little wear on the staples down there, but I mean, it's a legit looking 9.2. It is a great looking book. It has this little thing up here, which it's hard to tell if that's actually a flaw, or I've had a very similar flaw on one of my other books. And I was wondering about it, and I had made a video maybe like 3 years ago, and somebody commented that this type of flaw where you actually see the color and then that white around it, to me, when I had it, at least when I had it in hand, it didn't look like actual damage to the book. And that person had commented that it's actually something from the printing process where something probably got onto the paper while the ink was being put down. And so it's actually a printer defect. And so that's likely what that flaw is actually up there. But man, 9.2, White Pages, incredible looking copy. I mean, colors look great, super sharp edges and corners. 825,000. I mean, this was probably the biggest shock for me of this one, maybe even more than that Brave and the Bold 28. This was just a massive, massive sale. I didn't think this was going to get anywhere near this number. So yeah, big sale for the Hulk #1. All right, then we had another book. This was a pretty big surprise too. This is Hulk 181, first full appearance of Wolverine, 9.8, White Pages, went for $72,000. I had it going for 60,000. Last sale was like 57,000. Sale before that, I think, was 66,000. It seemed like it's just been trending down. And like I mentioned in one of my prior videos, like the color strike isn't real deep on this one. So it's not one that, to me personally, presents as well as a lot of other ones that are out there. It doesn't mean that it's actually lower grade. It's not like this is fading. This is the color strike on the book. Sometimes you get deeper reds. Sometimes you get this orange color. And so then you get things all in between. But yeah, 72,000 beat my estimate by 20%. This was a strong sale. I was not expecting this because I could see this one still going down. I mean, if another one came up for sale in another month, I wouldn't be surprised if it went for 60 or 55. So yeah, this one felt like a very strong sale to me, and one that I don't know if it's justified. They come up for sale enough that I probably would have waited and seen if I could catch one at a little bit lower price. But if you got enough money, you don't care, doesn't matter. But yeah, 9.8, Hulk 181, first full appearance of Wolverine, White Pages. Okay, now this one got a Golden Age pre-code horror book. I believe this is single highest graded. Let's see. Yep, 1 in 9.4, none higher. From the Mr. Mystery run, there are a number of great covers that are part of this run. I actually hit this one dead on. I had it going for 18,000, went for 18,000. It has never sold before, so that was a good estimate on that one. And yeah, so new record because it never sold before. But yeah, solid sale for that one. Exactly what I thought it would go for. All right. Now, this was another one of the really big books. I had a huge range when I did my prior video on this auction. where I was estimating what I thought they might go for. I said this one I thought would go between 750,000 and 1.25 million. So I have on my spreadsheet that I thought it would go for a million. So it did go below my halfway estimate by 10%, but it was actually within my estimate, the larger scale estimate for this book. So all I can really say is I think it was a solid sale. It wasn't an extremely strong sale because I think it had the opportunity or the ability to get above a million. It is the single highest graded copy, a 9.6 white pages of one of the biggest keys of the Silver Age. So I do think it had the potential to get over a million. It didn't get there, but it still wasn't like it was a disappointing sale. But there was actually a Ado that sold later in the auction too. And that one I think went for a really good price. I think whoever picked that book up got it for a great deal. I think it was an Ado that went for 81,000. And I'm pretty sure the prior sale was like 136,000, something in that range. So I think whoever picked up the Ado got a really good price. I actually thought that maybe that Ado was going to go even stronger because it had this big sale leading into it. Like maybe there would be some FOMO buyers, picking up that Ado. But yeah, I felt like that one, whoever got that one, got it for a great deal. All right. Now, the Silver Surfer, #1, Boston Pedigree. This one, I had it going for 150,000. It went for 132,000, but I also can't say that that's a disappointing sale. The prior record was 34,500, so crushed that. This is one of those where you try to come up with the estimate based on doing a multiple of what other books have done since that book last sold. Now, despite the fact that this sold for 132,000, I think the likelihood of if another copy comes up in the next year, 6 months, something like that, it's probably going to go quite a bit lower, or it's going to trend down as they sell. There are, I believe, 10 copies out there in grade. Yeah, there are 10 9/8s out there. So while it's relatively rare, there are quite a few. And so if you've got one of these other people that has it for 34,000 or less, because 34,000 was the prior record, this is the type of sale that can pull those books out. And so that's why I think if more get pulled out because of this sale, I think it is fairly likely that the prices will continue to drop on this book, that this could be a high watermark for it. And then you'll see some lower sales as they come up. But it doesn't sell very often, which surprised me because there are 10 of them out there. I did think you would see it sell maybe a little more often, but we'll see as as the year or 6 months or whatever comes out, if we see any more of these books pop up for sale. It is the pedigree, so it would look pretty cool with like the gold label, but still, it's the 9/8 white pages. I do think, even though it disappointed some, 12% below my estimate, I do think it's going to keep going down if more come up for sale. All right, now this was the big book of the auction. Superman #1, 7/0. Has this, the QES sticker, meaning it presents well for the grade. I had this one going for 2,325,000. In my prior video, I actually said 2,300,000 to 2,350,000. So I feel like I nailed this one right on. Like this is another one I really got. That was a pretty tight range, and I got this one right. And so yeah, it beat my estimate by 1%. I basically got it right where I thought it would go. Prior record was 2,604,750. I believe that was on a Comic Connect sale. Then this exact same book came up for sale on Golden like a year after that, sold for like 1.6 million. Then, whoever picked that one up, they just knew they got that for a steal. I mean, that was a total steal for that book. And so for people that think you can't get steals on books like this, you're wrong. I mean, that was a total steal for that book, because then you have it pop up here on Heritage, sells for 700,000 more. Now, minus fees and that kind of thing, that person probably just made like 600 grand. So not a bad turn for that book. But yeah, this was a solid sale, went for what I thought it would. I was pretty confident it would get over 2 million, and it definitely did. This book is extremely difficult in grade. If we go down here and check this out, the census, there are 2 7/0s, 175, 180, and 185. I mean, there are not a lot of books up here in this grade. And so it goes for a lot of money. I really like this cover. I saw that picture. Some people took pictures at Heritage of these big books that were in their case there. And man, when you see this one in the same case with those other books, to me at least, this book stands out. It looked really, really good. And that's how it's really helpful sometimes if you're looking at books and you're really into the cover art. If you see a lot of books together next to each other, it really shows you which ones you might like more. That's how I really discovered that Startling Comics 49, that Bender cover, is just legitimately one of my favorite covers, if not my favorite cover from the Golden Age, because I saw it with a bunch of other books on the same table, and it stood out for me. I loved that cover so much. And so this one, when it was with all these other big books in that case, I think Heritage Comic Grader might have posted that on Instagram. It was either that or the Heritage Comics Instagram account. And this book pops. So yeah, great looking book, amazing sale, strong sale. All right. Next one here. This one had a strong sale too. This is a book that's been trending down. And so this was an impressive sale. 132,000 for a 9.8. I had it going for 110,000. Its prior record was 245,000. So it is still down quite a bit from that prior record. But with the trend that this book has been having, where it's been basically selling for less and less every time it comes up for sale, and that's not just in a 9.8, that's generally in the other grades as well. Since this book did get really, really expensive during the comic boom, this was a big sale. This beat my estimate by 20%. It's a good looking copy. It's a 9.8. It's got that nice deep red color strike. Sometimes you get the deep red. Sometimes it's a little bit more of a pink. This one looks really, really nice. So yeah, big sale, strong sale for first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the first print. All right, now the last book we're going to talk about here. And I'll probably get some hate from the pulp collectors that are out there. But this is All Story from October 1912. First appearance of Tarzan in a VG. It is a complete unrestored copy, which is extremely rare for this book. Went for 265,000. I thought this book might go for like 95,000. Now, that was my estimate of what I thought it was worth, but I wasn't going to be shocked if it went for more. But for more, I was thinking maybe like 150. This went for 264. This was a monster sale for this book. I mean, just a huge sale for this book. Now, I'm not personally really into pulps. So from that perspective, I try to look at this just from a general collector viewpoint, like not that whether I like it or not, or what I think about it, but to me, and I've said this to a few people, my opinion on pulps is that they feel like video games from 2 years ago, where everybody's real excited. You know, CGC's starting to grade them. There's a lot of hype around them. And so people are paying a ton of money. And at least what we saw with video games is that you got these massive sales that happened and then it just started tanking. And so all I can say is, hey, maybe these will keep going up, but be careful. Be careful with pulps out there, because just in general, like as somebody who is a Golden Age collector, like I would probably be the target for pulps, but I don't like them. And so I think pulps are like a subset of Golden Age collectors, which are already a pretty small subset of comic collectors. And then you've got where the demographic that are collecting pulps are probably trending older. You know, it's like Golden Age, but maybe even a little more so than that. And so I don't see a lot of like new big demand from like a new collector market coming in, even with the grading. And so that's just my perspective. I think, you know, 5-10 years down the line, these might be quite a bit cheaper. So just be careful with them. That's all I'm going to really say about it. There are a couple pulps I like. I do really like that one that is it's like the green one with the Batwoman on the cover. There was actually one that sold in this auction. It is this cover right here. I'm probably going to regret showing it because then more people might want it. But this book right here, this is, I mean, it's a really expensive book. This was a very strong sale as well. I thought this would go for 6,500, went for 9,000. But yeah, this is You can see down here, it is one of the most iconic and enduring pulp images of all time. This issue features the classic Margaret Brundage Batwoman cover. And that's one of the things I really like about this one is it's kind of got that good girl art element. It's got the solid background that I really like. And it has that little bit of a tangential tie to Batman. So that's the thing that I like about this one. But it's just, it keeps getting more and more expensive too. I'm not rushing out to buy pulps or anything like that. I think I feel like it's a little overhyped market right now. And I'm just telling you, be cautious out there. If you have to wait and the prices do stay high, you don't really lose anything. Then you're just buying them at the higher prices that they're at. But if you buy them like into the teeth of a spike and then you have a big correction, that's where it can really start to hurt. So this is just my warning, my cautionary statement for pulps, because yeah, this was a big sale. 264,000 for first appearance of Tarzan. Which my other thought on that is one of the most expensive books that used to be out there from the golden age was, I believe, Large Feature 5, which is I think the first comic appearance of Tarzan. It used to be at the level of Action Comics 1. It now sells like I think like a 5.5 sells for like $600. It's because nobody cares about Tarzan. So like that's one of the things that I look at with that. It's like, what is the like that other pulp that I showed, it's got an image on the cover that people are really going to love. Like this is first appearance of Tarzan and nobody really cares about Tarzan. This is my take on it. I'm trying not to crap on this one too much, but I don't know. It's my opinion. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Saw some cool books. I mean, this was a very, very strong auction, and it continued in the second session. That was also very, very strong, but I might make a separate video about that one. Yeah, I mean, beat my estimates by on average over 10%. Some really big books. Now, I do want to say that I'm not necessarily saying that this means the comic market is back and it's super strong and everything. You got to remember, like, this is super high end comic market. These are very expensive books. It is not necessarily the same people that are going out there and spending $100 or $1,000 on a comic. The average sale price for those first 24 books was over $400,000. We had multiple $1 million sales and multiples that got really close to $1 million. So this is not necessarily the same people that are participating in different ends of the market. So you just have to always consider that as well. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, saw some cool stuff. If you'd like to see more videos like this, I've got more videos over here, got the subscription button right here, and I will see you in the next video.